أفلح من صلى على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد نبيه وآله وسلم تسليما. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق، خلق الإنسان من علق. اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم، علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clinging substance. Read, and your Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not. Please welcome our brother to read a few words of recitation. Brother Hussein Hamoudi, welcome him with the Salat ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. طه ما أنزلنا عليك القرآن لتشقى إلا تذكرة لمن يخشى تنزيلا من خلق الأرض والسماوات العلا الرحمن على العرش استوى له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وما بينهما وما تحت الثرى وإن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى الله لا إله إلا هو له الأسماء الحسنى وهل أتاك حديث موسى إذ رأى نارا فقال لأهله امكثوا إني آنست نارا لعلي آتيكم منها بقبس أو أجد على النار هدى فلما أتاها نودي يا موسى إني أنا ربك فاخلع عليك إنك بالواد المقدس طوى وإن اخترتك فاستمع لما يوحى إني أنا الله لا إله إلا أنا فاعبدني وأقم الصلاة لذكري إن الساعة آتية أكاد أخفيها لتجزى كل نفس بما تسعى فلا يصدنك عنها من لا يؤمن بها واتبع هواه فتردى وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى وما تلك بيمينك يا موسى قال هي عصاي أتوكأ عليها وأهش بها على غنمي ولي فيها مآرب أخرى قال ألقها يا موسى فألقاها فإذا هي حية تسعى قال خذها ولا تخف سنعيدها سيرتها الأولى واضمم يدك إلى جناحك تخرج بيضاء من غير سوء آية أخرى لنريك من آياتنا الكبرى اذهب إلى فرعون إنه طغى قال رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Thank you for the beautiful recitation, Ahsan. So welcome everyone to our career fair. Last year, apparently we had very good feedback and that it was a success to have this career fair last year. So alhamdulillah, the organizers got together and decided to do it again. So inshallah, we'll all benefit in some way, shape or form. Now, before we start, I start, of course, in the name of Allah, the most beneficial, the most merciful. And I want to start by remembering our brothers, sisters, families, children in the Middle East and what's going on in Palestine and Lebanon. So if we can please recite Salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for them 3 times. Fortify the frontiers of the Muslims through thy might. وحصن ثغور المسلمين بعزتك. Support their defenders through thy strength. وأيد حماتها بقوتك. Now we move towards the program. قال الإمام الصادق عليه السلام ألا إن العلم قفل ومفتاحه السؤال. Verily knowledge is a lock and its key is the question. We're going to start today with a little speech by Zainab Rasool. She's a guidance counselor at the Sadiq Islamic School. She's going to speak a little bit about career selection. So let's please welcome her with a loud salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Can you all hear me? Okay, first of all, thank you so much for coming. But before I begin, I want you to take a moment and look at the person to your left and to your right, obviously, keeping in mind the gender boundaries, and shake the person's hand, introduce yourself, say your name. Maybe some of you know each other, maybe some of you don't. Take 30 seconds and do that. All right, so now that we've had a chance to at least familiarize ourselves with who's sitting beside us, let's begin. So thank you very much for the opportunity again to Al-Zahra Youth. I had the honor of being here last year, and it reminds me of the mosque that I grew up in. It's called Passmore because of the name of the street that it's on. It was small and it was intimate, and the community was very strong. And so may Allah continue to bless this community, especially the young generations that are standing in front of me, walking around. So may Allah bless the community and give you opportunities to continue doing this going forward. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you are in grade 12? A whole of 3, okay. Or maybe some of them didn't want to raise their hand. Any 11s in the house, grade 11s? Any 9s or 10s? Okay, so for those of you, this is a really prime time to be coming to an event like this, because obviously the future for deciding your career is around the corner. Now, some of the adults in the room might actually be looking for a second career. I'm not exactly sure. And so this may be of interest to you as well. I'm going to try to keep it as light as I possibly can, but just a few things that I think is important to talk about when we're looking at career exploration. So first and foremost, as a career and guidance counselor at a Sadiq Islamic school, my office is filled. Not with necessarily the kids that know what they want to do, but more so with the students that are very much unsure of what they want to do. A lot of them come, they sit, they're kind of slumped, they're unmotivated, and they're like, Rasul, I don't know what I want to do. I can tell you what my mom wants me to do. I can tell you what my dad wants me to do, but I actually don't know what I would like to pursue as a career. And that's normal in this day and age that we're looking at. And we'll talk about statistics a little bit later, but when you are looking into a career, especially for the young ones, there's a few things that I think one should keep in mind. Now, this is not an exhaustive list. This is not, a comprehensive book. These are just some of the things that I think as a natural state of looking into career, you would probably agree with as well. First and foremost, we want to be able to identify our strengths, right? It makes sense to be able to have a career that aligns with the strengths that you naturally have. So if you're a good public speaker, if you're good at problem solving, if you're an amazing critical thinker, if you're good with your hands in terms of tools kit, you might want to be able to think about what could naturally fit with that. Of course, being Shia Muslims is one of the things that values and interests are extremely important. You want to be aligned with a career going forward that is going to obviously allow you to maintain your Islamic value. We have positions today, unfortunately, where more so than none, our values and our principles as Muslims are being questioned, are being challenged. And we are finding ourselves in certain situations where you kind of have to make a decision. Do I take the promotion? Do I not take the promotion? And these are things that are also very, very important in terms of values and interests. We are also living in a world right now where, if I were to mention the word mental health, I think everybody's going to shake their head and say that is something that is up and coming. There's a lot of people that are struggling. And so the concept of a desired lifestyle, what kind of a lifestyle do you want to be living? This concept of a work and life balance is extremely important. In fact, the members of our Ahl Bayt, the Imams, talk about separating your days and times, A for community members, A for work, for worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we're not required to be spending 80, 90 hours in a workforce. And so that kind of lifestyle is really, really important to take into consideration. Things like education. I have a lot of kids that come sit in my office and they're like, how long does it take to become a doctor, Rasul? What's the quickest way I can? And I was like, it's not really the quickest way. And so some people are really interested and they're motivated and they have the time and the ability to spend that many years in university. Not everybody has that. Some people are required to be breadwinners. And so they need something quick. And then they can pursue a longer degree later on. And so education is important to be able to identify, where am I going? Am I going to college? Am I going to apprenticeship? Am I going to university? Your work environment. In teaching, we have a saying that says the teachers that have left the profession, we didn't leave the profession because of the kids. We left the profession because of the adults. So sometimes your environment in terms of where you're working and who you're surrounded with is going to obviously determine where you want to be. Are you somebody that likes to be in an office setting? Are you somebody that enjoys working from home? Are you a team player? Or do you thrive more in an individual team setting? And so those things are really, really important. And then obviously, this is something that I don't think a lot of us think about, is the community impact. So how can you take either your career or your strength or your skill set and provide that support to your local community? So one of the individuals that I know that's a periodontist, he spends a lot of his time in that field so that he can actually set up a clinic in Najaf every single year for the orphans. And he provides a dental clinic for them, actually not just once a year, 2 to 3 times a year. And he does that because he realized that his profession had not just what he does as an office, but in addition to that, he was able to help other people. So for those of you that are already established in your fields, that's another thing to think about, is what can you do in your field that's going to help the community, right? We know that knowledge is something that's not to be kept to yourselves. It's something that is supposed to be shared. So especially for those who are 9, 10, 11, and 12, or even younger, think about that. What can you do to give back? Now, when you're trying to select a career path, there's a lot of things that you might need to kind of think about, right? Self-assessment means identifying, again, your strengths and your values. What is it that you're good at? What is that you're naturally good at? I had a student that once said to me, like, Mr. Sewell, I see blood and I faint. And I was like, okay, well, we got to think about the medical field in terms of if that's what you really want to go into. That's not to say that you can't, but there are factors and things that you can do to kind of help with that situation. And so that's one thing. Networking. This is a prime example of an event that would allow you to network with other people. There are so many hidden talents and people that are in various professionals that are sitting in this room alone that you may not know if you're a part of this community, or you may not realize. And you as an employer have an opportunity to be able to help those that are up and coming into these professions. So that networking part of things is really important. Obviously, if you're still in high school, volunteering, internships, co-op, if you have that opportunity, that is going to be something that will be very, very beneficial. Co-op saved me a few years of my life, because when I was going into teaching, I thought I wanted to teach the grade 1s. And they were very cute to look at, but I couldn't teach them for 45 minutes because my level of interest and their level of interest was night and day. And so I quickly realized through co-op that teaching the primary was not for me. And then I moved into the secondary department, which is where I realized that's where my natural strength lied. And obviously continual learning. So even when you're in your profession or getting certifications or adding to your skill set is something that's really important. Now, you may look at all of that stuff and be like, yeah, but I still don't know. And so there are career quizzes that are out there. So for those of you that are in high school, you may know something called My Blueprint. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Or Zello? Okay, so these are programs that the different boards, Peel, TDSB, York Region, they use to be able to get our young kids exploring different careers. But the Holland Code is actually another one that a lot of pre-hiring organizations utilize. And there's a QR code. If you want to bust out your phones right now and scan that QR code, whether you're an adult or a child, that's a really good quiz to take a look at to be able to determine particular interests and areas of career. So again, that's the Holland Code. If you haven't had that chance, you're more than welcome to do that. I'll keep that up there for another 10 seconds. And if not, you're more than welcome to come see me at the booth, and I will keep that slide open as well. It doesn't take long. It's like less than 10 minutes, but it's going to be able to spit out a bunch of careers that could be aligned with your skill set. I'm just gonna wait. I've got a few people. All right. So now when we're looking at post-secondary pathways, we got to think about like, after I finish high school, where in God's name am I going to go? What are my options? And I think a lot of the times we think about university, obviously, we think about college. A lot of the times we don't realize about apprenticeship, which is the trades, which is what actually is, there's a shortfall and a shortage in Ontario. Does anybody here know the difference between the three? I mean, without looking at my screen. Is there anybody that's kind of familiar with the difference between the three of them? Okay, so I'll quickly go through it. I don't want to obviously go into depth because the slide is there. The difference between apprenticeship and college and university is apprenticeship is something you can actually start in high school. It's paid experience. It has 140 trades in Ontario in various industries that allow you to potentially within 2 years get your red seal trade and get into the industry, and you could be making a very decent salary. That's one side of things. It's something that, again, is smaller class sizes, especially for students that don't like to sit in university lessons or in college lessons with all the lecture and theory. Apprenticeship is really good with that. If you're good with your hands, apprenticeship might be something that would be valuable for you. Colleges, obviously, we know that. It's a little bit different. It's skills-based. It has independent learning. But the difference between that and university is it's a lot smaller in terms of class sizes. In fact, a lot of the people that I speak to that ended up doing university and college will always come back and tell me that the skill set that they learned in college was not comparable to what they did in university. And so that college education is very, very valuable. In fact, today, many of our universities have joint programs with colleges. So you have TMU with Centennial, you have York and Seneca. So they are bridging this gap where you can do 2 years of college, 2 years of university, and walk away with a degree, which is amazing compared to when I was growing up. Those options did not really exist. You had to pick one or the other. For those of us that know have gone through university, slightly different, a lot more theoretical based. Sizes of classes are a lot larger. And the concept of co-op or internships is there, but it's not guaranteed in every program. And I think that's also a huge difference between the universities and colleges. Colleges have experiential learning built in. Universities have certain programs that do and certain programs that don't. And even if they do have a co-op program, it is up to you to seek out an employer and be able to get that co-op. It's not necessarily guaranteed. So that's something you may want to be able to think about in terms of pathways as well. Again, I was talking about the skilled trade. So in Ontario currently, I mean, this number is staggering. 300,000 jobs are going they're basically, no one's taking them. And so there is a huge shortage in the trades field, and that shortage is expected to last for the next 5 years. Currently, there's about 1 in 5 job openings that are in Ontario that are to be placed in the skills trade. So again, if you're planning on going into apprenticeship and skills trade, this is the market for you right now. And in terms of the next decade, 40% of all the new jobs that are going to be created are going to be in skills, trade, and technology. So if you're looking for a field that's going to be marketable, the demand is going to be high, then skills trade is definitely an area to be able to go into. So that's something to be able to think about. Now, enough about me because I've been talking for a little bit too long. Let's see how career smart you guys are. And so I have about 12 questions that we're going to go through. Before you shout out the answer, discuss it with your neighbor, the one that you shook your hands with, and then we will discuss the actual correct answer. Are you guys ready? Yes? Okay. All right. How many universities are there in Ontario? So talk to your neighbor. Do you think it's 10? Do you think it's 20? Do you think it's 23? Do you think it's 15? I have some people that are listing them out loud. It's a strategy. We've got people Googling it or you know, using ChatGPT. I didn't say you couldn't, so. Okay, so just in the interest of time, raise your hand if you think it's 10. And no judgment, right? No, okay, 10. We've got a few 10s. Raise your hand if you think it's 20. Okay, raise your hand if you think it's 23. Okay, and raise your hand if you think it's 15. Okay, so I don't even know what the majority is. There's 23 universities. And guys, this is Ontario, not Canada. This is Ontario alone. So why is that important to know? Man, you have options. You have options in terms of staying local, and you have options of traveling within Ontario. But we have 23 universities, which is pretty impressive. What grades do universities or colleges look at? Is it grades 9 to 12? Is it grade 12 only? Is it grade 11 and 12? Or is it grades 10 to 12? All right, so raise your hand if you think it's A, grades 9 to 12. They look at everything that you've done in high school. Okay, raise your hand if you think it's just grade 12. Okay, raise your hand if you think it's grade 11 and 12. Excuse us. And raise your hand if you think it's grades 10 to 12. Okay, so the majority there was correct. The universities and colleges are looking at grades 11 and 12 for entrance, okay? So, true or false, and this is something that my students ask me all the time. So they're like, Rasul, my grade 11 marks, they're like terrible. Does that mean that you can't get into university? Do you think it's true or do you think it's false? No discussion there. People are very firm on their response. Okay, it's false. So yes, universities and colleges look at your 11 and 12. However, if you had a horrendous year, I'll give you a prime example. We at ALzahra, alhamdulillah, we have a large Lebanese population. And I have multiple students right now who's and staff actually who've lost family members, who've lost their homes. And for them to be able to come to school and focus is education is not the priority. And so I remind them, I said, relax, like what you're dealing with right now is extremely stressful. Don't worry about marks. And so they're like, no, it's grade 11. I said, don't worry. So there's always things in terms of special circumstances, even my students that are in grade 12 that are Lebanese, who's every other day, astaghfirullah, they're hearing a family member, being martyred. And so there's a stress, but yes, there's a complete and real possibility of you being able to go to university if your grade 11 marks were not on par. So not to stress about that, but that's just something that I think a lot of kids look at. When universities are calculating averages, because it's always about my marks, right? In grade 9, the grade 9 kids are like, yeah, I got this. In grade 10, they start to get a little bit more serious, but they're kind of like, yeah, it's okay, I've got time. And then grade 11 comes around and suddenly they're in a state of shock because they've got to take university level courses and college level courses. And so they're always asking, how does the university calculate my average? Do they look at every grade 12 course that you need to take and then they average that out? And then decide if they want you or don't want you? Do they look at all of your grade 11 and 12 courses and average those 2 grades out? Do they look at your top 6 courses of grade 12? Or do they look at your top 6 courses with the prerequisites to be able to calculate an average? What do you guys think? So again, talk to your neighbor. Okay, how many of you guys think it's D like David? I said D, eh? Not A. Okay. How many of you guys think it's C? Okay. How many of you guys think it's B? Okay. And A. All right. So those of you that said D is correct. And I think this is something that a lot of our students forget to realize is, yes, they're looking at top 6, but your prerequisites need to be a part of that, which means that you kind of have to work backwards and figure out what does my university admission requirements entail? Do I need a calculus? Do I need a bio? Do I need a chem? Or if I don't, then I have numbers to be able to play around with. So the prerequisites is an extremely important part of the mix. Here's something that is another conversation that I mentioned to you is in my office. So if you don't know what you want to do after high school, can you still apply to university or college? What do you think? You have no clue. You really have no idea in terms of what you want to go into. Nothing whatsoever. Can you still apply to university or college? What do you guys think? Okay, so the answer is yes. And when I was in university or when I was heading into university and at that time colleges, the options for undeclared majors or explorer programs in college did not exist. And I won't tell you how old I am, but they just didn't exist. As the years have gone on, there is a understanding that our youth are very much undecided in many of the things. Yes, we have an entire batch that knows exactly what they want to do, but there's also a larger number of students that actually are quite confused. They fluctuate. One week they'll be like, yeah, I'm going into biomed, and then the next week they're like, no, I'm going to become a realtor, right? And so there's this fluctuation. And so the reality is that you don't have to take a gap year. You can actually apply to university and college with an undeclared major. An undeclared major is an opportunity for you to be able to get a sprinkle of a variety of courses before you choose your major. In college, they do that as well. It's called explorer programs. They're under faculties. And that way you have a chance to, again, get into the colleges or get into the universities. The advantage is you actually don't waste a year. It's part of your 4 or 5 year degree or diploma or certificate, and it gives you a chance to see a variety before you actually commit to a program. So that's something that's really important. What are the different programs that colleges offer? Is it degrees? Is it diplomas? Is it certificates? Or is it all of them? Talking about colleges here, not universities. I'll give you 10 more seconds. All right, how many of you guys think it's just diplomas? Okay. How many of you guys think it's a degree? Oh, they're like, nobody, college, no, it's not just a degree. Anybody who thinks that colleges provide certificates? How many of you guys think it's all three? Yeah, you are absolutely correct. So again, in the last 10, 15 years, the colleges have, as I mentioned previously, joined programs or joined affiliates with universities. And so students in colleges can now walk away with an actual degree, including certification programs. Obviously, the length of these programs differ. The shortest is 1 year. You can get a certificate in 1 year. And then diplomas can be between 2 and 3 years. And also degrees can be between 3 and 4 years. But the variety is something that didn't exist prior. So again, options are present there. Here is an interesting statistic. I was talking about how nowadays the youth are undecisive. They're not sure what they want to go into. So how many students in Ontario, and this is after first year, so they've entered college or they've entered university, how many of them do you think changed their mind? You think it's 5,000? Do you think it's 65,000? You think it's 35,000? Or do you think it's 15,000? So remember, they're in university and they're like, yeah, this is not for me. I'm going to switch. Somebody might ask me, like, how many students in Ontario apply? So the universities is about 100,000 we're looking at. Actually, I don't have the number for colleges at the current moment, but out of curiosity, what do you guys, how many of you guys think it's 5,000? Really? Interesting. How many of you guys think it's 65,000? Oh, wow, you guys are, okay. How many of you guys think it's 35,000? Okay, and 15,000? 65,000 and counting. And so currently in Ontario, there is an entire organization called, anybody know what that organization is called? It's called ontariotransfer.ca. This is literally what they do 5 days a week from 8 to 4. They work with students who are in university, who have realized they're in the wrong program and they want to switch into a different program. They help students that want to switch universities. They help students who are in university go to college, and college kids who now want to go into university. So in terms of students that are unaware, if you are one of those kids sitting in the audience today, you're not alone. There are 65,000 other people that may switch programs. And for those of you that are adults in the room, maybe you have also switched careers. Maybe within your actual field of study, you switched areas. I started off as a teacher, then I thought, let me be smart and take my principal's qualification. And I decided to become a vice principal. Learned very quickly, did not want to do that. Spent 3 years there and I was like, peace out. And then I went to guidance. So I have, in my 18 years in education, I've done 3 different, completely different fields. Yes, within the field of education, but that is normal. And so people are switching and changing their minds. And so keep that in your mind too when you're selecting a career. All right. Is there lots of free money in Ontario that you can receive for post-secondary education to the point of $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 or counting? Do you think you can get free money, or do you think that's not possible? Nothing's free, including the air I have to put in my tire, which is now $2. It's ridiculous. What do we guys think? True? Oh, false. Okay. It's true. And what I love to tell my students is that a lot of this free money does require a supplementary application. And my response back to kids is like, oh my God, I don't have time for that. Is if you can invest an hour, maybe 2, in an application for a scholarship, and your return on your investment is $60,000, then I think we'd be foolish not to. And so the options, either from universities, from colleges, and independent organizations, there is a lot of free money that's out there. And to the parents in this room whose children are going to be going to university or college, check with your companies, check with your employers. Many of you may not realize, but your companies may have private scholarships for kids. And that's sometimes a resource that's not tapped into. And that's an option for your child to be able to get funding for their university. Tuition these days is around 10 grand, right? So times 4 years plus tuition, plus textbooks rather, plus distance, we're looking at $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. And that's just depending on your program. The other programs are, some of them are 12 grand a year. And so any help that you can provide in terms of free money is really, really important. Why do you think college is beneficial? Do you think it's because of lower tuition cost and less time? Is it because of the experiential learning that I talked about, which is not just theory-based? Is it the Explorer programs that gives you the opportunity to not have to necessarily pick a major? Or do you think it's all 3? How many of you guys think it's all of the above? All right, how many of you guys think it's just A? How many of you guys think it's B or C? Yeah, so the majority, so you guys are a really smart audience. So college obviously has the benefits again, and when I was growing up, college had a stigma. You know, when kids would say to their parents, like, I want to go to college, they'd be like, what? Like, sit down, sit down. Our kids don't go to college. You go to university, you're going to bring shame on the family, right? And so now people are starting to realize the benefits of going to college. And sometimes, depending on the program, they may outweigh the benefits of university. And so that is an option that I think needs to be on the table going forward. Again, in terms of colleges, true or false, 80%, or rather, I lied, 85% of college graduates find employment within 6 months. Do you guys think that's true? Do you think it's too high of a number? Do you think it's false? Yeah, it's true. And again, there seems to be, and yes, in comparison, I don't have the university numbers, so, you know, that's a little bit skewed there. But I can tell you my story. So when I graduated from Teachers College back, I didn't get a job for 3 years. And I was devastated because nobody had told me that you were not going to get a job. I went in, naive, thinking that as soon as I graduated, like, why wouldn't they want to pick me up? And I didn't. It took me 3 years. And so I actually transitioned to the optical industry. I was about to get my optician's license. And, but what ended up happening is, I was able to get a job, and I've been at ALzahra since then. And the rate of employment, I think that's another thing that our kids may not be prepared for. We're living in a society where everything's on demand, right? I need my table, I got Amazon Prime. But this concept of that ability to have a job when you're hired may not necessarily be as easy as it was maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so again, having that understanding of a backup plan, or the ability to maybe do something interim, or again, gaining or adding skill sets or skills to your resume is going to be able to allow you to enter the workforce a lot faster. 2 more questions, and then you are free of me. True or false? The Michener Institute is Canada's only post-secondary institution that's devoted exclusively to health sciences education. Now, some of you are like, the Michener who? And that might be the case. You may never have heard about it, and so you don't really know if it's the only one in Canada. What do you guys think? True or false? How many of you guys think it's false? Okay. How many of you guys think it's true? Okay, there's a whole bunch of you that are undecided. And that's totally fine. So actually, that is true. Michener Institute is an excellent option for those that may not have gotten into medical school initially. I have former students of mine that went through U of T, got a degree, applied to medical school, didn't get in, and they were devastated. And as a result of that, they realized that there was the Michener Institute that has a whole, actually they're joint with U of T, they're downtown Toronto, and they have a degree programs. They have direct entry from high school. Those programs are limited. I don't have a problem saying that, but they have a lot of programs that are postgraduate programs. So if you are somebody that's in the medical field, I would highly advise you to take a look at the Michener Institute in terms of what they're doing. Again, smaller class sizes, the ability to have artifacts and cadavers and all of that is like 3, one of my students had come in, and they had like 3 cadavers to like 30 students. So in terms of the ability to have that skill set there and that experiential learning is quite high. So the Michener Institute is something that, again, would be something for anybody to look into, even if you're graduated university or if you are going into university or college. Last question. We talked about universities. How many colleges are there in Ontario? 27? Who thinks there's 27? 13? Maybe. 10? I don't know. 22? Could be. What do you guys think? Somebody said 27. Okay. So again, there are over 50 post-secondary options in Ontario alone. And yes, many of them have joint programs with universities. So if you are somebody that's not ready to go to university right away, or your program doesn't require you, the options in terms of universities are endless, and colleges as well. Okay, so let's take a look at some upcoming programs. If you are in high school right now, the Ontario University's Fair, the virtual one, which is their last event of the year, is coming up in a couple of weeks. It's November 19th. It's free to attend. It's virtual. All you have to do is go to the website, ouevents.ca, and it's from 5 to 7 p.m. All universities in Ontario do a 30-minute presentation. You can listen to as many as you would like, or you can explore the ones that are of interest to you. So if you are in university, if you are in let me repack. If you haven't achieved your college or university status and you're in high school, even if you're in elementary school, this is a really good fair. You don't even have to leave your house, okay? For those of you that are in grade 9, I think there was a couple or maybe one that had raised their hand. And parents, if you don't know, it's Take Your Kids to Work Day. So grade 9s are not in school that day. But Again, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the Commission of Canada is hosting a live, again, free career day presentations where they have, I believe it starts at 10 o'clock and it runs till about 4. They have different panelists from different professions speaking about what they do. So if you are a kid who doesn't know or has an idea or wants to explore, this is a really good link to attend on Wednesday, this Wednesday coming up, November 6th. So if you, again, are in grade 9, do take a look at that. And if you have siblings or cousins or relatives, maybe this is a good link to be able to send to them in case their school hasn't informed them of it. I'm just giving this lady a second. Okay. All right. So if there's anybody that has any questions, obviously I'm going to be at the booth today, the education booth. I won't be there, unfortunately, for too long. So if you do need to ask me any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Again, if you want to get in touch with me, you have a personal email, or you have a question that you prefer to ask me by email, my email is there. And of course, if you would like to follow me, not asking you to, I post some stuff on my guidance page on my Instagram. So if there's anything that you need, I'm available from either of those 2 platforms, okay? Thank you so much, Jazakallah. I really hope that you have a fruitful evening, inshallah. And once again, to Al-Zahra Youth for asking me to come today. I really, really, truly appreciate the honor. Thank you. Well, do you want to take questions, brother? No, no time. Okay, I spoke for too long. All right, thank you so much. I'll be there at the booth if you need me.
Thank you very much, Sister Zainab. Took me back to the old days. Honestly, it was a great discussion. Makes me feel like wanting to apply again. Get something, yeah. All right, I'm sure her booth is going to be stormed with maybe even most of the adults as well. Nonetheless, we have other booth members to introduce. So I'm going to first introduce the healthcare and medicine field. So I'll just call out your name and just maybe raise your hand or stand up, do what you want, just so people can identify you. All right. So, and then I'll introduce the person that's going to speak on behalf of the healthcare and medicine team. So on the ladies' side, we have Yasmin Abadi, and she is, her title is a dentistry student, University of Toronto. We also have Aya Al-Rafai, pronounce that correct? Al-Rafai, okay, dentist as well. Saja Ahmed, medical esthetician. Sara Al-Zubaydi, biomedical science student, University of Guelph. We have Mariam Al-Awadi, psychotherapist. We have Mina Rose Ismail, PhD student, computational neuroscience, University of Toronto. And then on the brother's side, we have Yunus Lari, who's a nurse. We have myself, Habib Al-Khayyat, I'm a psychotherapist. We have Ahmed Al-Awadi, emergency response doctor, ER doctor, or emergency doctor? Is that what? Emergency response or emergency? Okay. And Yasser Hamid, pharmaceutical quality assurance. All right. And then last but not least, Noor Al-Kaabi, medical student, University of Toronto. She will be giving a little talk. So we'll take few minutes of her time. So فلنستقبلها بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Noor. I'm a second-year medical student at the University of Toronto, and I was asked to come here to talk about my career journey and how I applied to medicine and got in. So I'll take you back to my first day of my undergrad degree, actually, and it was actually the second day after I had landed in Canada. So I remember finding myself in a conversation with these girls that I just met who were talking about their medical school applications, and they mentioned some things about hospital volunteering and doing research and taking bird courses. And I remember feeling very overwhelmed by the amount of information that I had just received. And I think there were that feeling rang true for many years all throughout my time while I was applying to medical school. And I think there were two guiding principles that I think I kept coming back to that were very important in guiding the kinds of activities that I pursued that helped me get in, but also activities that I just really enjoyed during my time in undergrad and during my master's degree. So the two guiding principles that I kept coming back to were, number one, I knew that I craved a career that was very creative. I knew that I liked working with my hands. I knew that I liked creative processes and creative ways of thinking. And I knew that I liked speaking with people. I liked working with people. And I didn't want a job where I would just sit behind a desk or an office. So I needed that kind of connection with people. And so medicine was the perfect fit of all of those interests that I had. And so I realized that I wanted to do medicine, and I ended up doing an undergraduate degree in the sciences. So I did a double major in biology for health sciences and psychology. And then throughout my degree, I ended up pursuing activities that I felt like fit in my interests. So I did a lot of photography, I did a lot of sports and arts. I ended up pursuing a part-time job in research as well. Sorry, I think I just need some water. Does anyone have any water? Sorry, I was standing for a long time today. Anyway, so I knew that I wanted to pursue medicine. It felt like it was the perfect fit of my interests. And so it was a matter of figuring out how I could piece together an application given how competitive it was. So I think this is very important to think about for high school students who are thinking about what kind of healthcare field they want to go into, because I think that there were a lot of healthcare professions that I didn't pay attention to when I was thinking about what to pursue. And there's things like occupational therapy, there's dentistry, there's mental health work, there's clinical psychology. So I really urge people to think about the scope of healthcare professions that are offered besides medicine. And I think that it's very important to realize that the path to get to medicine might be very, very long. So it took me around 6 years to get in. I applied twice. After I did my undergrad, I ended up taking my MCAT the summer after I graduated. And then I ended up pursuing a master's degree. So I did my master's in clinical research, and then I applied again at the end of my master's, and then I got in. I only got one interview to one school, and that was U of T. So I got very, very lucky with my application, and that's because I had someone who helped me with my application, and they were a first-year medical student at U of T as well. So if you are interested in applying, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to review your application and help you. I guess the takeaway messages that I would give to people who are thinking of applying to medicine is, number one, it's very important to be comfortable with taking risks. I think that there's no guarantee for you to get in, even if you study hard and you do a lot of activities that you're interested in, even if you feel like you're benefiting your community and you know that you're doing good work. Unfortunately, there's not that many seats. So I think being comfortable with the fact that you may not get in, but you're still doing things that you really enjoy is very, very important. The second thing is, I think that it's a very long road. So understanding that it's important to enjoy the process of applying and not just the actual goal of becoming a doctor is very, very important. And that's why I really encourage people to think about what personal interests they have and how they can use that to benefit the community. So for example, if you like playing soccer, think about becoming a soccer coach for the youth. Or if you like photography, think about how you can use that to advocate for certain communities or to tell certain stories. So I think that those are really fun ways to spend your time in a very difficult journey and in a very stressful environment as well. Because I think that you might find yourself having conversations with people who are also applying to medicine, and everyone's doing 10 different things that are very different from you, and it can feel very overwhelming that you don't know how competitive you are. So I think that it's very important to stick true to what your own interests are. And then finally, I'll leave you with this. So our school has around 280 people, and out of the 280 people, there's around 15 or so individuals who are Muslim, and those numbers are increasing every single year. So we want more Muslim doctors. It's very beneficial for our own communities, for people to care, for people to have Muslim doctors, and for people who can speak different languages as well. But then I also think it's very beneficial to the field as a whole, because we all bring in such unique life experiences and unique interests, and we need that in medicine. You usually find a lot of very privileged people in these circles, and I think that we need more people with very diverse life experiences. So if you think that you're interested in, but you feel like you don't see that many people in this space, just know that you do belong there, and it's okay to be the first one to come into the space and create a path for other people to apply and to get in as well. Yeah, I'm happy to take in questions after, I think.
Thank you very much, Noor, for your sharing with us your experience. So in terms of, we'll just go through education. Are we privileged to have Zainab speak for us again? Okay. So for education, we have Zainab Rasul, and we also have Hawra Al-Dhahab. She's the founder and principal of Al-Kutab Foundation. And Zainab Rasul, of course, is the teacher and guidance counselor of Al-Sadiq Islamic School. And then moving to our law field. So we have Maryam Ismail. She's a law student at the University of Ottawa. And we also have Sadir Sadiq. He's a lawyer. And so we'll have Sadir Sadiq give us a few minutes of his time to introduce us about law and what have you. All right.
Thank you for the introduction.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Yes. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I hope you guys are all doing well. Congratulations, Maryam, for getting into Ottawa. I remember last year we did the same event and you were a fourth year, so congratulations on getting into law school. Law is a really great career, which I think is often overlooked by a lot of people in our community when applying to university. A lot of people in the Arab community, they try to go to engineering and medicine. Law is often overlooked, but I think law is a great career that everyone should consider because it's so diverse. There's a lot of different fields within law that you can specialize in. And if you are someone who prefers to do a lot of desk work, a lot of paperwork, there's jobs in law for you. And if you're someone who wants to be social and outgoing and go to court and litigate and argue, there's also a lot of roles for you. The process to become a lawyer in Canada, you start off in high school. You want to take a lot of courses that are creative. So obviously, take your maths, take your sciences, but try to take some creative courses as well. This is advice for the grade 9s and the 10s. Make sure to take some courses that will help your creative side grow. Creative writing, history, philosophy, law, if your school offers that. After that, you have to do an undergrad degree. And I think the beautiful thing about that is Sorry, I'm gonna put this. The beautiful thing about law is you can have any undergraduate degree you like. When I was in law school, there were people with degrees in the humanities, the social sciences. There were accountants, there were engineers, there were people who studied hard sciences like biology and physics. So any degree you like, you can pursue that if you want to be a lawyer, and that's a good thing because you won't just learn law, you'll also learn whatever field you choose to pursue in undergrad. Obviously, that's a disadvantage as well because because you have to complete an entire degree before you can enter law school. So that's something to be considered as one of the cons of the career. But if you choose a field that you actually like, then I think you will enjoy your undergrad studies as well as your law school later on. Once you finish your undergraduate degree, or even during the undergraduate degree, you can actually do the LSAT, which is the law school admission test. Everyone who wants to apply to law school in the US or Canada has to complete it. You study for it, you do practice exams, and then you take the test. And after that, if you do well enough, law schools will look at your test result, your university grades, which are also very important, and other extracurriculars. So your volunteer experience, your work experience, reference letters, and that will determine whether you enter law school or not. Once you are in law school, you can obviously you will start your first year taking core law courses, learning the essential core laws of Canada, because every lawyer, no matter what you specialize in, has to have a general understanding of every field of law in Canada. After that, you can explore your interests. You can see what type of lawyer you want to be, whether you want to be a solicitor or a barrister, or do a bit of both, because unlike the UK and Canada, you can do both barrister and solicitor work in the same career as the same person. And yeah, you can see if you want to do corporate, family, criminal. There's dozens of fields of law which you can choose to focus on, which are too long to list now, but once you are in law school, you can choose to pursue that. After that, after you finish law school, you have to article for a year, which is basically where you work at a law firm or another type of business that is registered as an articling, like an articling center or an articling principal by Ontario. You do that for 8 to 10 months, and then you write your bar exam, and then you're a lawyer. Or you can do the bar exam during or before, it doesn't matter. But that's kind of the process. So to sum it all up, it is a long process, but I think if someone's interested in the law, it's very worth it. I just got my law license, 2 weeks ago, so I officially called the bar, thankfully. And yeah, and I hope at least some of you will pursue the field, and hopefully in 8 years' time we'll see more lawyers here, more people doing speeches. Mariam, hopefully in less than 3 or 4 years for you, you'll be a lawyer, hopefully, inshallah. So if anyone has any questions about the legal profession, whether it's being a lawyer or other jobs within the legal profession, because as our speaker said in the beginning, if you want to pursue law but you don't want to spend that time, there's other law-related jobs available to you. For example, paralegals, you can become a paralegal by going to college. You can also become a law clerk by going to college. Those are also great careers which are very rewarding and very interesting that someone could pursue. So if anyone has any questions about being a lawyer or any other job in the law field, please feel free to ask me questions after the event. I'm excited to hear any questions, and I'm more than willing to give advice to anyone about anything they have.
Thank you, Brother Sadir. Canada has a lot of rules and regulations, so take advantage of that guy. All right. So to our final booth, and I see all the dads kind of, sat a little up. They're kind of slouching a little bit. But we have engineering and engineering technology. So from the sister side, we have Zainab Rahan. She's a software development test lead, electrical engineer. We have Suad Al-Ramadani. She's a project coordinator, architecture. And we have Rawan Al-Amili, software engineering student at McMaster. And from the men's side, we have Nath Al-Musawi, Transformer Test Manager, Electrical Engineer. We have Safa Al-Zubaydi, Senior Manager, Civil Engineer, behind. We have Yasser Abadi, DevOps Engineer, Software Engineer. We have Haidar Al-Khayyat, Automotive Production Unit Leader. That's my brother, in case anyone was wondering. And we have Mehdi Al-Musawi, gonna give me a tongue twister here. Artising student and EIT, is that artising? Articulating student and EIT, civil engineer. Thank you for that, appreciate it. Where is Mehdi? Right behind, okay. And also we have our speaker for tonight, Hussein Ali. He's a project engineer, electrical and biomedical engineer. I could have sworn I saw a child wearing that badge. فلنستقبله بالصلاة على محمد وآل محمد. ثانيا غفر الله لكم. الثالثة بأعلى أصواتكم. اللهم صل على
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My name is Hussein Ali. I'm a project engineer, project manager. My background is actually electrical and biomedical engineer. Graduated from McMaster University, and so just want to talk a little bit about the engineering field, a little bit why I got into it, and what it can hold for our young youth thinking about getting into engineering. So for those that aren't really familiar with engineering, it's basically the amalgamation of science and math to solve problems, right? If you excel or you enjoy math and science, engineering is a natural path. That was one of the choices for me, just because I enjoyed doing that in high school. I like both math and science, and engineering just made sense. And whether or not you are going to pursue engineering, engineering is all around us, pretty much from everything that we use, everything that we do, the phones that we use, the equipment that we have, the vehicles and roads that we drive on, any products that you use in manufacturing, agricultural, and the food that we eat and drink, and et cetera, and et cetera, et cetera, all the medical devices, all the science and technology, space exploration, all that has foundations in engineering and uses engineering principles to create those opportunities. And engineering is actually one of the oldest known professions in the history of mankind. Probably, back in Egyptian time, few historians quote that Imhotep was probably the first engineer. He was the one that designed one of the step pyramids. So if you're pursuing a field of engineering, okay, what does that mean? There's like hundreds of options of what you could do. So there's a lot of kind of the main basic, I wouldn't want to say basic, but the main fields are civil, structural, mechanical, process, electrical instrumentation, geotech, and a lot more fields like software engineering. And then you get into artificial intelligence and things like that. So the field is still growing, even though it's quite ancient. It's still developing, and there'll be new fields and new areas for study coming up for sure. And then just a little bit about engineering in Canada. So engineering in Canada, for most provinces, and I think all of them actually, it's a self-governed profession that's backed by government legislation. So what does that mean? So the main purpose is to have ensure the safety of the people and the environment at the first and foremost of any engineering design or principle, and making sure that the public interest is upheld. One thing that you'll know, one of the perks of being an engineer is you get a cool ring. And basically what that is to remind you that you take an oath, that you're going to safeguard the public interest, environment, and people. And it's a reminder to that commitment to uphold the ethics and morals of engineering. So if that's a field that you're interested in, come to the booth. There's a lot of very knowledgeable brothers and sisters that will help answer any questions, myself as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Hussein. Okay, so the booths are going to be some on the sister side, some on the men's side. I think maybe engineering might be on the sister side, and then, yeah, some here, some there. Okay, so it'll be kind of divided. Feel free to walk around and do what you do at a career fair. If you don't know what to do, ask. We're here to help you. We're here to learn. We're here to guide you so you can find where you'd like to go. All right. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Okay. So if you know where you're going, go. If you don't know where you're going, stay in. We'll come to you and we'll let you know. Okay. All right. This is. We'll get rid of it. Okay. Once the sisters leave this room, if we can please have the brothers collect the chairs and take them to the back, fold them and take them to the back so we can open up the area and we can walk freely without anyone tripping. Even though we do have doctors here that could help you if needed.
I was waiting for you to speak.
Oh.
It's a really interesting job.
It's
Yeah.
pretty fun.
Yeah, that's actually what I wanted to do. I wasn't good enough with math. That was my
Oh.
thing, so I thought I went to law. Really, from like high school, I kind of love math. So it's like, yeah, anything medical, I'm not gonna do. But a psychotherapist, that's really interesting. You want to go to Spirit Mission.
Oh.
But I mean, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're the first office psychotherapist that I met.
Oh, really? I think Mariam Al-Awadi, she's also a psychotherapist. She's probably been doing it maybe a little longer than me, actually.
What did you say?
I started, I started doing psychotherapy about 2 years ago.
Mashallah,
I'm 30.
You're 30, okay, so yeah, I'm 26.
Yeah.
So we're both like, we just started.
Yeah, yeah.